Hey everybody, welcome to I think episode 67 of Reading Smoke with Phillip Jost. I'm Phillip Jost. Let's get started. I always look down here, 6-7 seconds delay between when I hit live and it actually goes live. I always have to check and see if we're looking good out there in the internet. So if you're out there and you want to hop in the chat room, send me a note or whatever, go for it. I haven't been live for a couple of weeks, so I appreciate you tuning in. And I don't have a really long video for you today. It's from LA City, and there's a link in the show notes to the original video and to give credit to the people who posted it, which is RMG News. You can see their logo right there. And so we'll be doing that. Was out last week. I was out in Lititz, Pennsylvania, and thanks for Lititz for bringing me out. The regional training there, just doing a great job out there in southern Pennsylvania. Really enjoyed the trip and meeting everybody, and hopefully we'll be going back there at some point in time. But got almost a full slate of classes for the year. I've got a few more I'm booking, but if you're interested, hit me up soon, because pretty soon we're going to be looking to book into 2023. So if you're in contact with me now, that's great. But if you want something for 2022, we should probably get it on the calendar soon. Looks like we'll be going up to Canada at least once this year, and back down to Texas, maybe Florida, and there's a whole slate there. So as we get new ones, we'll put them up, and you can always go to my website and see where I'm teaching and click to the links. If I have a registration link, it'll be live in there for you. So anyway, let's get going here. So this is actually a fourplex. I think we're in the back of this place just because this looks like an alley to me. When we watch the video, if you want to go watch the whole video, that's great, but it looks like we're in the back. And so I don't know how far into it they are. I don't know what their strategy and tactics are. I don't know what it looks like from the front of these places. And so what we're looking at, though, is reading smoke from a volume, velocity, density, color perspective, and seeing the things that are going on. Right, and if you're a decision maker of any kind, right, if you're on the first line back there, and you see stuff, then you need to make sure that the incident commander knows, and maybe they know already in this case, maybe not. We don't know, because we're not there, right? But right away, significant fire, right? Significant fire going here. You do see a couple firefighters here. I don't know if these are the first lines being stretched, or if they're, like I said, this seems like the Charlie side to me. So I suspect that maybe they're operating on the other side. But yeah, there's a significant fire here. But the thing that we're going to point out is the density coming out of these overheads, right? Like there's one there. We'll get the next one right there. And at some point we're going to see, I think, a third one. I might have to stop the video here. Okay, so we see at least two. Sorry, there wasn't a third one. That's bad memory on my part. That's what happens when you're over 50, right? But these two overheads are putting out a significant volume, right? So it's a lot of turbulent, thick black smoke. It's sort of in the middle, I think, on the both the volumes, right? The volume might be in the middle, but it seems like a lot since it's not the fire compartment, and there's a moderate amount of turbulence, right? It's not like banging out of there, but it's coming out with some pretty good turbulence. But the main thing is there is a significant, I think there's a high density, right? And what I was teaching my classes is that density is destiny. And so when we look at volume, velocity, density, color, as they're making, right, they're making a stretch here. And this is just a piece of this video, right? There's more before and more after. That I'm not showing you, but let me get so they're stretching back here, and they might be just stretching the exposure line. Again, I'm not big on talking tactics all the time, and especially in a situation like this where we're just seeing such a short piece of what's going on, and we don't really have much information. Certainly, we want to do something about this fire, right? So, but let's for the sake of learning from the volume, velocity, density, color, and what our overall responsibilities are in the fire ground, we want to be thinking about if we stretch back here And we see this sort of density coming out of these other overheads. So density is destiny, right? That's where the fire is going to end up. And there'd be a responsibility to make a report on the conditions here to the IC. Now, maybe that's already been communicated, maybe it hasn't, but if you're paying attention on the fire ground, you would know, right? You say, oh man, nobody's talked about this yet. I need to get on the radio. Or maybe even if it was communicated, but it looks worse to you than you thought it was. Like somebody said, hey, there's light smoke coming out of the Charlie side. You get back here and you see this, you're going to get on the horn and make sure the IC knows, right? Maybe you're going to talk to your division and the division's going to talk to IC. Whatever it takes, right? But the main thing is to make sure that the IC knows that this fire is in real threat of extending into the overhead. And as this thing goes on, depending on how quickly the fire attack goes, we're going to be able to see or not see fire coming from these spaces. Now, let's project, right? Because we've talked about this in other instances of being able to project what's going to happen, right? So if they let's say that they're tactically, let's say they're attacking this fire from the Alpha side. We're back on the Charlie side, and right away we start seeing some conversion here. First, the flames start going down some, then we start seeing some white mixed in, and then we see copious volumes of turbulent white smoke coming out of here. We know the fire attack's been great. So what we want to do is come back and check on, right, we made a note of the velocity and the density here, right? We made a note of that as we came through, we made our report. Fire attack works. We're going to want to follow up by looking back at these overheads and seeing what happens here. And what we're looking for always, right, is a rapid decrease in velocity and density. Rapid decrease, like falling off the table. If these are followed up very quickly by white smoke here and then white smoke here, the fire is probably not independently operating in the overhead. If they knock this fire out and this velocity and density continues out of these openings, independent fire working in the overhead. Right? We've talked about this multiple times on the episodes here about the whether it's a problem that might happen or a problem that has happened, right? And I'm not sure where you are in this. Either way, let's say that the fire department knocks this down quickly. We start getting some white smoke out of here and here, we'd still have a responsibility to check this overhead for extension. There might be small embers and stuff like that. Man, we really want to check that out as we're doing our overhaul, because we had so much velocity and density coming out of these openings, right? So there's what's happening now, what the incident commander knows or doesn't know, right? And then our responsibility to tell them, and then also having a recognition of what we think could happen in the future, what actually does happen, and how well those correspond, right? So there's a lot of information from, we're talking about 30, 40 seconds of video here. A lot of information for us to consider over a pretty significant time for the incident. And could be that they knock this down from the other side. I'm not kibitzing on this because there's so little, I know so little about what's happening. It is important to note too that there is some smoke coming out of the windows. These doors in these units, these additional units are open. If I came back here, I'd want to ask these officers, hey, did you clear those out? If they've cleared them, right, if PD's already been in there and cleared them, it would have been nice maybe if they shut the door, right? But it's good information, right? And the information is probably available just by having a short discussion with these officers. They might say yes, they might say no, but the information's available one way or the other, right? If they've cleared them, then I'd be comfortable calling the IC. Since it's police officers, I'd be comfortable calling the IC and say, hey, look, PD cleared. Let's see if this is the Charlie side, the Delta 1 and Delta 2 exposures, right? Great, that's great information. We have heavy smoke coming from the overhead in the Delta 1 and Delta 2 exposures. Or not heavy, but high volume, turbulent, thick black smoke coming from the Delta 1 and the Delta 2 exposure. PD says they've cleared them for civilians. Great information if the IC's out on the Alpha side, right? And very often, in fact, we had in the SOG, it stated the first unit right, to an area should give a report, a PAR, or not a PAR, but a CAN report, right? So conditions, action scenes. So that's that conditions, right, is what we're talking about here. Now, if the IC sent you back here to do something, that might be your actions, right? You may not have to repeat that, but regardless, we're looking at what the conditions are, and that can report from a first unit into a location, like here on the first unit to the Charlie side, or first unit to Division 2, or whatever the case may be. The IC, trust me, the IC wants to know what's going on there, right? Well, so shout out to LA City for putting this fire out. Shout out to RMG News. Thanks again to Lititz for having me out there to Pennsylvania. Pretty soon I'll be on the road. I'll be in Wisconsin, Campbellsport, Wisconsin. I'll be 3 days in Dearborn, Michigan. And so if you see me in one of those shows, please say hi. Otherwise, for episode 67 of The Art of Reading Smoke with Phil Jose, I'm Phil Jose, and I'm out. Thanks for being here.